James Shugg is senior economist at Westpac Institutional Bank. He's been ranked to Bloomberg Best on the subject of US payrolls. James, great to see you. What are you looking for?
Hey, Rich, look, we're looking for a pretty disappointing report today. We're looking for a flat private payrolls outcome. We think that census workers, the last unwind of that distortion in the data, will take another 130-odd thousand off the report. And state government employees are still being laid off as well because of the budget constraints there. So add all that up, and looking for a 180,000 decline in payrolls overall.
What makes you so much more bearish than others?
Well, look, the US economy was growing at 5% annualised at the end of last year, 1.5% in the second quarter, and it's probably stalled at the moment in Q3. Given that, it was no surprise that the economy was putting on around 200,000 private sector jobs in March and April of this year. But with the economy having lost so much momentum, I think it's pretty unlikely that employers are putting any workers on at all at the moment. And that's the gist of what we're saying. But there's a few other special factors too. The General Motors, they didn't have the usual shutdowns in July, so you're not going to see the pickup in auto sector employment that you'd normally see in August. And the way the seasonal factors work, that'll tend to weigh down on factory sector employment. Jobless claims, they were running at around 500,000 around the time of the survey week for payrolls. That's telling you that things are looking pretty soft. The ADP measure of private payrolls, it actually fell for the first month in quite a while. That's also suggesting that, you know, the private sector is not hiring at the moment. You know, so there have been some positives. You know, small business hiring intentions picked up in the latest survey. The factory ISM jobs component was healthier. But, you know, we've got to make a judgment. And on the basis of those factors I just mentioned, we think that the labour market story is looking pretty disappointing at the moment.
James, just also give us an idea of the whole of the labour market. I mean, from a sense of what I'm getting from you is this is not a structural issue. It's more just waiting for the economic cycle to turn. That's
right. Look, the problem in the US economy is that the fiscal stimulus, although it helped, you know, drive some pretty strong growth outcomes late in 2009 and earlier this year, it's meant that so much activity, particularly in the auto sector and the housing sector, was pulled forward from the second half of 2010 into earlier this year and late 2009. Also, that fiscal stimulus actually encouraged people to take out auto loans and mortgages. So disposable income for those households has been pulled back to some extent as well because of the interest payments they're having to make to service those extra debts. You know, so fiscal stimulus, in a sense, has actually been responsible for this slow patch we're now seeing in the US economy. And the labour market is going to be sort of like collateral damage associated with that. We do see, however, heading into 2011, more prospect of perhaps a self-sustaining recovery starting to come through in the US economy, where businesses will start to be, you know, putting on a bit more investment. They'll be more encouraged to hire again. Households may be a bit more encouraged to spend. I mean, basically, time is what's going to sort out the problems in the US economy. But we've got to get from this period of economic weakness to that point where a self-sustaining recovery is starting to come through. And in the meantime, with unemployment probably pushing back up towards 10% in the next few months, you know, that's not going to help the situation much in 2010. So it's really not until 2011, maybe later in the year rather than earlier, that we start to get a little bit more optimistic about the economy and about the labour market.
James, very quickly, do we get to 10% unemployment rate by year's end?
Probably not today, probably not in this set of figures, but yeah, I think that's pretty likely. One of the things that's holding it back, of course, is that these people that are losing their jobs, particularly the census workers, they're actually leaving the labour force entirely. So that's tending to hold down the unemployment rate. But at some point, yeah, I think we'll see 10% again before too long.
James, great to see you. As ever, James Shugg there, joining us from Westpac.
Thanks, mate.